Join the mortgage expert Heath Barnes as he equips loan officers and real estate agents with innovative ideas and tools so you can adapt to the changing environments in the marketplace. Be inspired by stories from some of the top professionals in the mortgage world today as they reveal their secrets of what made them successful while gaining knowledge and insight about how they continue their success regardless of the market conditions. Find out how to build a team and scale your business. Get ready to be more productive while working fewer hours. Here is your host, Heath Barnes.
Welcome to Mortgages Reimagined. I'm your host, Heath Barnes, and I am excited to have our guest today. Our guest is the co-creator at Neo Home Loans. He's also co-creator and coach at Triibe Coaching. Danny has been making impact in our industry for more than 19 years, and lifetime has more than $2 billion in production. One of the top originators in the country. He has 19 years in the industry, lives in San Diego, 2 kids, loves to travel, board games, and drinking wine. A man after my own heart. Welcome, Danny.
Awesome, Heath. Great to be here, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a pleasure. Now, Danny's my current coach at Triibe. And I've been with Triibe for a few months now, and I invited him to be on the show here recently. And I'm just fascinated by just, the systems and the processes that you have in your head, and it's just all the knowledge that I'd love to share with my audience, especially in this environment that we're in, middle of December. But first, I'd like the audience to kind of get an idea of who Danny Horanyi is, where he came from, how he got in the business. So how'd you get in the business?
When I think about the answer to the question, the first thing that comes to my mind is happy hour. That's how I got in the business. But I'll give you the short version. So I went to college and got a degree in accounting. I thought I was actually going to become a CPA. And right out of college, I got a job at Centex Homes, as in the accounts payable department, which obviously my accounting degree gave me the credentials to kind of go in and be a data input person back in a cubicle dungeon. And it just turned out that CTX Mortgage shared a building with Centex Homes. So CTX Mortgage was the mortgage arm of Centex Homes, and we shared a break room. So I would go in every morning and afternoon, and I would, toast my bagel and get my coffee, and I would go back to my cubicle dungeon, and then I'd come out and, microwave my burrito. And the mortgage people were in the break room too, and they were having a completely different experience of life than I was, right? Because it's 2003 in the mortgage industry, and they are loving life, right? So at some point, I just said to them, I'm like, what do you guys do? Like, you were having a very different experience than I am, back in my cubicle dungeon. And they said, well, why don't you come to happy hour with us and find out? And so I did, and I ended up, really hitting it off with them. And then, ultimately ended up getting invited to be the loan officer assistant to what I later found out to be the top producing loan officer at CTX Mortgage nationally, and a guy named Steve Lemon, like just an amazing operator. And I still owe so much of what I know today to him and his teaching, and that branch manager, Lori Peterson, as well. But they brought me in, and kind of the rest was history.
Funny how sometimes in life, being at the right place at the right time, and I don't want to say it's lucky. I think we create our own experiences, and that's exactly where you were supposed to be, and like the runway for you to be in the mortgage business. So and I'm curious. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna just honor that statement, but also there's an element of action, right? So I could have gone and toasted my bagel and microwaved my burrito 100 times and never said a word, and just gone back and lived my life. And I could be working a terrible life at some accounting firm right now, instead of on this, awesome call with you, because I didn't step up and act.
Well, and there's an awareness, right? There's an awareness to, hey, these people are living a different life than mine, and the courage to say, hey, tell me more. Like, y'all's experience is different than I'm having. I'm going to my desk and I want to put a bullet in my head. I'm assuming that's what you wanted to do. Because if I was in accounting, I would want to put a bullet in my head. But I'm assuming that they look like they were having a good time. Everyone was like, oh, life is good. You're like, oh, let me talk to these guys.
Yeah. And they say happy hour. I'm like, I've been training for this my whole life. I went to UCSB. Like, if I have one skill, it is this. Let's go.
Yeah, that's great, man. So my hat's off to you. So those listening, be willing to ask questions. It's one of the things. I have an Italian exchange student, and like the one thing that I'm trying to teach her is asking questions. It's kind of been my mantra since I actually learned that on my own, not on my own, but from a girlfriend 20 something years ago. So you were bold enough to ask a question and step out on a limb. So obviously that went well because you were working for one of the top loan officers in the country. I don't know if you remember the name Mark Cady.
Oh, it sounds very familiar.
I think Mark, who I actually saw yesterday, was one of the top loan officers, and I think it was with CTX out of Houston. So, but Steve Lemon. Okay, cool. So, anyways, it must have been good. You followed the right people, because now you're one of the co-owners of Neo Lending and Triibe Coaching. So, my hat's off to you. I'm curious, like what do you think about this crazy market? We just went through 2 years of going 150 miles an hour, and now we're going through a school zone, and people don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Heath, I have a lot of thoughts on this, actually. I'll kind of approach it from a couple different angles. The first way I want to approach it is one that I think for your audience is the most actionable, something they could take away right now and put into their business. And I always want to lead with value, right?
Yeah.
So I was having a conversation with a loan officer the other day, and it was they were pretty down, right? And they were having trouble. They don't have a call reluctance. They had conversation reluctance, right? They would pick up the phone and call anybody as soon as they knew what they were going to say. And they just didn't know what they were going to say. And I just happened to have a glass of wine with a realtor friend of mine a week before. And I started asking them about their experience of the market and how things were going. And I asked them they were telling me, oh yeah, there's, sellers are dropping prices. It's pretty dire right now. We don't have a lot of listings. And I was trying to connect all the dots because I'm a very math focused person, right? I love statistics. I love math. I love to understand how different systems fit together and work together. And I was hearing not a lot of listings, not a lot of inventory, sellers dropping prices. And I was like, these things don't connect, right? Because those things are not normally related to each other, because supply demand, right? Again, I'm an accounting major and economist degree. Supply demand would say low inventory, high prices, not low inventory, low prices. So I asked them the question, how many months of inventory do we have right now? And they said, well, we're sitting at about 2.5 months of inventory. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying sellers are dropping prices when there's 2.5 months of inventory. And for those of you who are watching this that don't have kind of a baseline for this, a normal market, right? If you think about a spectrum of buyer's market, seller's market, a normal market is 6 months of inventory. Anytime inventory exceeds 6 months, that's considered a buyer's market. It means there's just way too much inventory on the market, and buyers can really force price concessions and command the marketplace. Anything below 6 months is typically a seller's market, where the seller's in control and they set the price and they set the terms. And it's not just a gradient of, every month of inventory lower, there's a linear path, right? Being at below 3 months of inventory is enormously favorable to sellers. And being in the 2.5 months of inventory, enormously favorable to sellers. So I went to this loan officer and I'm like, hey, look, 9 to 18 months ago, you had to learn the term buyer fatigue, right? You had to learn how to keep your people engaged, because they kept getting punched in the face because they took their 7-year-old and showed them where their bunk bed was going to be, and then they didn't get their offer accepted. And that happened to them 15 times in a row. And they said, I just can't take my 7-year-old into this house again, because they keep getting attached and I'm not winning the offers, right? And we had to figure out how to navigate that marketplace, where we had appraisal, gap strategies were the conversation, and all of these things that we had to put in place because there was just massive demand and low supply. Today, we're in this weird environment where supply is still low, but demand is also low for really reasons that are not from a macroeconomic perspective, and I would defer to Barry Habib and his content on this, household formation and the ratio of inventory to household formation. He does a tremendous job on that. But the fundamental answer, team, just to give you the punchline, is there's not enough houses for the people that need houses, which means home prices should be going up, and they're not, right? They're going down in many markets. What that represents is a massive opportunity, because you have a seller's market where the seller is behaving like it's a buyer's market, and the buyers are not acting on that arbitrage, right? That opportunity to win on the emotion of that.
So what I'm hearing you say is there's opportunity out there, and it's our job as loan officers, or if you're an individual, like, it is a wonderful time to be in real estate, whether you're buying, especially buying, because what I hear you saying is, yes, on 2 months of inventory, like, where is the inventory going to come from? Some people are like, okay, well, what if inventory jumps up? Well, the likelihood of inventory jumping up is fairly low unless they start building a lot of houses, right?
And they can't, it is physically impossible to do it fast enough. There's not enough lumber. The supply chain is there. The permitting process in most markets takes years. They could start today, and our buyers are buying in today's market, right? So realizing that, yes, could there be this windfall of units created? Maybe, but it's really unlikely. So, and here's the other thing, Heath, that I really think that people need to go out and communicate. Empower your clients through education, get them off the fence, make them confident buyers because they have facts that other people don't have. This is one of the things I like to say to our team, Heath. Wealthy people are not wealthy because they have money. They're wealthy because they have access to better information.
Right.
You are the conduit of that information for your clients. 9 out of 10 people will not seek advice from a financial planner because they're embarrassed about their financial situation. They will speak with a mortgage advisor because they want to be a homeowner. And we are the greatest opportunity for that person to become wealthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, on your point, I think it's a really great opportunity for a loan officer to learn about inflation, to learn about how do you invest money? Because most of our clients, as you probably know, when I meet with a client, 9 times out of the 10, they've got almost $1 million in the bank, and their knowledge on investing is very limited. And understanding that inflation means if you're at 8% inflation, like, you're losing on every 100,000, 8,000 a year. But if you were to take that 100 grand, buy a $500,000 home at 8% interest, like, your return on that 100,000 goes through the roof. And that simple principle, if we can relay that to clients, will totally change your business.
Team, in addition to that, right, everything you said, Heath, was absolutely correct. But anybody that's watching this, Google the term inflation-assisted debt destruction. And inflation-assisted debt destruction.
Tell me more.
So in the same way that inflation destroys holder of assets, those that hold debt win from inflation. Because, Heath, if you get a 30-year fixed payment at $3,500 a month and you're making 80 grand a year, you fast forward, now inflation has made your dollars, the value of every dollar has gone down, right? Your wages have gone up proportionately to the rate of inflation, hopefully, right? But your payment is still $3,500. So you're putting 3,500 widgets into the machine, but those widgets are less valuable than they were 20 years before. So the process by which that debt is paid down, you're actually paying it with pennies versus dollars at that point.
Yeah, I'm thinking my 2.75% interest rate that I was talking about last night with a buddy of mine. I'm like, I'm not paying any more than my minimum monthly payment. Think about it, in like 10 years, my $5,000 a month payment is going to seem like it's $2,500 a month.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I know, I appreciate that. That's great information. We'll put that in the show notes. So, it's the middle of December. Like everyone I'm talking to, when I call a loan officer now and they ask me how I'm doing, I just say, I'm literally depressed. And they start laughing, right? So, like, I'm speaking the truth. And what they say in return is, I'm depressed too.
Yeah.
Because we're all scared. I don't care if you're a brand new loan officer, or you've got 25, 30 years. We're all nervous because the future seems bleak. But what I hear you saying is it's not bleak.
It's not bleak, Keith. And this is the other answer, right? I wanted to give that very tactical answer, right? Because get out, tell your clients to buy now, because 9 months from now, 18 months from now, whenever it is, they're right back in the mix of buyer fatigue and getting punched in the face, because that's where the macroeconomic economy is bringing us forward. And the one other thing I want to say to this, and you guys can Google this too, look at what Wall Street is doing. Look at what billionaires are doing, right? Blackstone put aside a $30 billion fund for the purchase of residential real estate. You think they might know a little bit more about what's happening in the global and macro economy than our individual buyers do, right? And wouldn't that be an interesting data point for them to bring into their planning?
Yeah. Was this recently in the last?
Yeah, within the last 2 months.
Okay. Yeah. And, in addition to that, I talk about this with clients. And if you're a loan officer and you have clients, you should be asking them the question, what's your understanding of the market? Right. And that's going to give you better information you can share with them. But, things aren't changing because millennials, there's 74 million of them, and they're all in home buying age, right? Meaning they're all first time home buyers. And I didn't realize this until recently on one of my podcasts, but a first time home buyer takes inventory away. Right. And so versus a repeat buyer, there's no change in supply. So I think that's going to have a huge impact. So how do we make an impact? How do we attack this market? How do we sustain?
Keith, can I go back to your depressed comment first? Because I don't want to gloss over that, because that was actually my initial instinct to answer your question about what's in store for us in this market.
Yeah.
But I wanted to first lead with that valuable tactic that you can use today in your business. So I did an interview with Tim Rahim. I believe it was in the end of 2020. And Tim is my coach, my personal coach currently. And he asked me what I was worried about. And I said, Tim, the thing I'm worried about is that people are going to believe that 2020 was their fault. And they're going to believe that the person that they are, their bank account, their W-2, somehow is attached immediately to the value that they created. And anything less than that will create a massive amount of depression. And I said, Tim, I know this is a fear I have, because it's exactly what happened to me in 2017. Because I came off of 2016. And if those of us who remember 2016, it was the last 2020, right? And that was the time where we were all, working, 20-hour days, trying to do everything we can to get every possible deal that we could in. And then 2017, we started to see the turn. And 2017 was the first time I ever had a W-2 that was lower than the previous year. And I was devastated, Heath. I did not know what I did wrong. I had so much, it was an existential crisis for me, because I felt like I was a winner and I had evidence that showed I was a loser. Right. And I also had throughout 17, the experience where I was doing all the same work. I was putting all the same time and all the same efforts, but I wasn't getting the same result.
Yeah. Your myopic view of yourself based on not being able to perform every year and increase your income without taking a look at how freaking lucky are we to even be in this industry?
Right.
Like it's like, we're so lucky. We don't have a product. We're delivering an interest rate and an experience, and we, probably get paid more than we should. We're super lucky. But no, I get it. I think a lot of us are like that in the industry. So if you're listening and your income is going down, that does not mean you suck. You're actually probably So
I had misassociated my net worth with my self-worth.
Yeah.
And that was a problem. And it's a problem that I still struggle with, honestly, Heath. I'm not free of it.
Say that again.
I misassociated my net worth with my self-worth.
I like that. What's self-worth? Okay, I'm gonna write that down. That's gonna be one of our titles. Misassociating your net worth with your self-worth. So what advice can you give to someone who is in that predicament, including myself, where you're like, your income's dropped, you're looking at next year, and how do you keep from freaking out? How do you, like, what should people be focusing on?
So Heath, there's two things that come up for me immediately when you say that. The first thing is that you should be measuring yourself on effort, not outcome. And that's so hard to do, man. And just honestly, like, I'm an instant gratification person. Like, I'm deep down in my core, I'm just a salesperson, right? I want to go out on the hunt and I want to know that I came away with the kill. And if I don't, I'm depressed, right? And I have that feeling. But the acknowledging the fact that you're still out there, still doing it, if you are in fact doing the things, right? Give yourself the opportunity for small wins. Focusing on leading indicators, not lagging indicators, right? Pat yourself on the back when you go and, you walk a mile. And again, I'm going to use, I like talking analogies, but if you're trying to lose weight, you don't just stand on the scale every day, look down at the number and hope for the best, right? Yeah. You need to either control how much you move your body or how many calories you put into it. So congratulate yourself on the inputs, not the outputs. And it's very hard to do because the instant gratification is not there, right? That instant feedback loop of result is not there. You have to reframe, and it takes discipline to do this. So that's number one. But as a 1A, make sure you're doing the right things, right? So when you're measuring the inputs, not the outputs, for this, I'll use a farming analogy, right? So when the ground is frozen, the farmer does not go out with his hoe and try to dig a new lane for crops. They don't do it because it would exhaust them and it would break their tool, right? They find the season that they're in and they do activity that's appropriate to that season. So if you're still buying freaking leads right now and thinking you're going to convert them at 1 or 2% and make a living off of that, you're digging on frozen ground, right? Rethink what you're going to do in winter, right? In winter, farmers plan their crop map, right? They set intention, right? They sharpen their tools, right? They train themselves and they set themselves up for future success, right? And here's the tricky part, Heath, and this is what we all screwed up big time. The other thing that a farmer does in winter is they eat out of the granary. They don't eat out of the field.
Eat out of the granary, okay.
And here's what we messed up. We did not save enough money in 2020 to survive 2022 without stress.
Yes. And I think most people right now
don't do that again.
I think most loan officers are thinking, I'm never going to go through this again. I guess that's because I'm thinking that I'm going to save. So what I hear you saying is that this is actually a season and opportunity as the tide goes out, because the tide's been in for so long. We're seeing who is swimming without a bathing suit right now, right?
That's right. And, exactly right.
Even this week, I go every other day. I'm like either depressed or I'm happy. And when I'm happy, like I got a list of the things that I'm doing. Like literally this week, 2 days ago, I called 35 real estate agents, and instead of resisting them not wanting to meet, I set lunches for the entire month of January. So I got a lunch for every month of January moving forward, because what are they going to say right now? Like they're getting ready for the end of the year. And so I just push it out to the next year, and I'm double booking lunches 11:30 and 1 o'clock. I got 2 lunches every single day in the month of January.
Dude, congratulations, man. And Heath, there's some things that you can only script in, right? From that conversation reluctance, not call reluctance mindset. There's some things that you can only do from a scripting perspective in December and January. Hey, this is exactly the time for us to evaluate what our partnership is going to look like in 2023 and how we're going to grow together, right? We need to do this either in December or in January, because if we do it in February, we lost 1/12 of our opportunity.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's great advice. So Yeah. So what I hear you saying is it's a season of opportunity. Use this time to retool your business. Use this time to do the things necessary to get ready, because there's going to be another refinance boom coming. Think about it. Your database right now is probably more valuable. I think you said this to me, Danny. Your database is more valuable than it's ever been. So I literally did a mortgage coach for every client that I closed this year already. And we're booking calls to go over that with them and say, hey, listen, I'm just wanting to let you know, these are going to be the opportunities. And let's talk about it right now, because when rates drop, they're going to drop and they're probably going to go back up. But if you're using us, we'll lock you in. So that's another good opportunity or tool you could use in this market.
So Heath, there's been a number of like Harvard time-lapse studies where they study, happiness and success and things of that nature. And one of them, and I'm not exactly sure, I don't have the data in front of me right now, but one of them, an article I read many years ago, said that one of the greatest predictors of success in life is the ability to delay gratification. And that's what you're describing, right? You're delaying the gratification of that funded unit by focusing on the leading indicator activity that on some level of some statistical basis will result in you getting an abundance in your business in the future. And you're planning for that future, and you're not just planning for it, you're manifesting it through your actions.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, another thing to think about on that point is thinking about the fact that, anyone could have been a great loan officer in 2021 or 22, like, or 20 and 21. Anyone could, like, you did any amount of units, like, you're pat on your back, but it's going to take a great loan officer to get through the next 3 to 6 months. You got to make hard decisions. And this is setting you up for success in the future so that you learn how to run a better business. Right.
Yeah. And Heath, that statement there, I think, is something that a lot of people are going to need to really internalize and learn. And I'm seeing a lot of loan officers struggle with this because they've never been taught it before. And actually, there's still some that are being coddled into believing that it's not important. But running your business like a business, understanding that whether you see it or not, there's truly a P&L behind the scenes that's based and rooted in fact. It's rooted in the total economics that are available in every loan, and what you're putting into inputs and the price exceptions you take on deals should be perceived as a direct representation of your ability to sell, right? The product at a fair price that you have, in front of you. So these are things that it's a crucible right now, Heath, and the people that are going to survive are those that have kind of the entrepreneurial will to muscle through it. And there'll be a handful of people that stumble their way through it and make it to the other side. But I would say that group is going to have a kind of a short window still, even after.
Yes, for sure. I'm looking forward to getting through the other side. Although I hate going through it right now. I keep telling myself, I got to ask myself a better set of questions. Like, instead of why is this happening, or why is it happening to me? Like, what can I learn? What do I get to improve? What do I have to work on today? So man, it's been a season of opportunity here today, having you on our show, Danny. I appreciate your quotes, one of which we'll put in the probably make the title: don't misassociate your net worth with your self-worth. So I truly appreciate that. Before I let you go and we end this podcast, I'd love to hear how can our audience get a hold of you if they need you? Like, do email, cell phone?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is email, and I have two that I'll share. One is danny@triibecoaching.com, and that's TRIIBE coaching.com, and danny.horanyi, HORANYI, @neohomeloans.com.
Spelled just like it sounds, Horanyi.
Horanyi, HORANYI. Nailed it.
Nice, Danny. Well, before I let you go, can you share like one more nugget, either a book you recently read, or a quote, or a piece of advice that you would leave with our listeners that you think we're going to help them in 2023?
So Heath, you actually just touched on it, and I want to just pull out some of the spirit of what you were just sharing and emphasize it because I think it's really important. And this was a quote that I heard. I can't remember what it was. It was early enough in my career that it changed the course of my career, and that is curious, not furious.
Ooh.
Right? Be curious, not furious. Right? And so embedded in that is a lot of what you just said. How is what's happening right now serving me, right? In what way can I learn something? If I'm in pain, it's likely that this is global pain. If I can get through my own experience and turn this into observing it almost as a neutral third party, what would somebody that was taking advantage of this market do, right? Yeah. When everybody's in pain? Because I promise you, Heath, somebody is doing that, right? So why not you? So curious, not furious. Life is happening for you, not to you.
Yes.
So figure out what that is and pivot your energy towards the opportunities, not towards the pain and suffering that you're in today.
Yeah. I've witnessed this just recently. You can call realtors right now, the biggest of any kind, because they're scared and they'll meet with you, right? Because they understand that it's going to be a difficult year. So I love that quote. Thank you for ending with be curious, not furious, something that you can not only use in your business, but even taking it home with your kids, with your wife.
Absolutely, man. I was even more so there.
My wife is like, boom, boom. Because I just growing up, I use anger to get me through most things. But what I forget is that my anger or frustration keeps people from sharing things, intimate things that they are probably going to help me. So I think if we can, be curious rather than furious or angry in the future, we'll all be successful. So Danny, many thanks to you for being on today. I'd love to have you back in the future. I think you've been a huge asset, not only to me and my life, but to this podcast and our listeners. So thank you, Danny.
It's my pleasure, Heath. Anytime.
Thank you for listening today. Hopefully this discussion inspires you by providing new tools to shape your business so you can become a more innovative and cutting-edge professional in the mortgage space. Join Heath in more conversations with the industry's top leaders by subscribing to the podcast at www.heathbarnes.com. That's www.heathbarnes.com.